main sources of foreign direct investment in Tanzania, whereby for the past 10 years, from 2013 to 2022, a total of 70 projects have been registered under the Tanzania Investment Bank Center with a value of about $137.4 million. The leading sector is tourism, valued at $36.36 million, followed by manufacturing sector, which is valued at $25.96 million US dollars. Members of the press, our BNC session also reviewed the education, social, and cultural cooperation, and in this regard, I wish to mention just 3 initiatives that demonstrate our resolve. In that context, first, the MOU in the field of basic education was signed in July 2022. Last year, and this MOU embodies for cooperation in learning and teaching of Kiswahili in South African public schools, and we are very happy to do that. Second, the Oliver Tambo Education Tour was launched by the Solomon Malangu Freedom College or College Trust in 2008. This is an experiential learning initiative aimed at cultural learning and fostering dialogue between the youth of the two countries. Tanzania youth will continue to participate in such dialogue, which not only enrich their perspectives and broaden their networks, but also avail them with a platform to share solutions to problems that affect them and other members of the society. Third, the recent launch of Tanzania South African Cultural Festival themed Reigniting Intercultural Exchange and African Liberation Heritage for Economic Development was graced by the ministers responsible for culture and sports of our two countries and conducted in mainland Tanzania and Zanzibar in November 2022. Distinguished members of the press, allow me now to end my statement by reiterating my gratitude to His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, for putting together a brilliant program for this state visit. I'm confident that this visit will further solidify our long-standing ties and unlock new opportunities to trade and investment. I can assure you that Tanzania will continue to be a reliable friend and partner of the government and the people of South Africa, as it has always been. Long live the bilateral ties and cooperation between the United Republic of Tanzania and the Republic of South Africa. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you. Siyabonga.
Asante sana.
Asante sana.
Asante sana. Thank you so much, Your Excellencies. We will now open the floor to questions. And I'd like to invite Ms. Sophie Mkwena from the SABC to fire off a question.
1, 2. Thank you so much. My name is Sophie Mkwena from the South African Broadcasting Corporation. Mr. President, you spoke about the discussions around the global affairs. And I know that very soon, Madam President, the Vice President of the United States of America will be visiting Tanzania. Mr. President, this balance of force that is emerging, you touched on that. Can you elaborate what you actually mean about this new balance of force emerging? And then based on what you said also yesterday when you were addressing the conference yesterday, you spoke about the foreign policy of China that you commended in terms of ensuring that there's no interference. And it looks like as we speak, the relations between South Africa and the US is not as healthy as it should be. On the other hand, you have Tanzania, it looks like the relationship is being strengthened. What do you mean? Is the North a headache? And then the last question, Madam President, you spoke about reaching out to the opposition in Tanzania, something that South Africa did post pre-1994. How do you hope to strengthen your resolve to ensure that there's a healthy relationship between the governing party and the opposition? Can you share with us your program of action? Thank you.
Mr. President.
It's quite clear that the balance of forces in the world is changing. We've had a situation where there was a unipolar world where certain countries sought to play a dominant role in the affairs of the world. That is now changing. We now are moving more and more towards the multipolar world, where a number of countries are emerging as key players in the world, and that should be welcomed because we now have more countries advocating for a restructuring also of the multilateral system. As we speak now, some parts of the world are not represented in the global architecture of the world, particularly the United Nations, the Security Council. And we as Africa have been advocating that we cannot have a situation where we've got some 1.3 billion people on the African continent who are not represented, whose voices are not heard at the apex body of governing global affairs, the United Nations Security Council. We want the multilateral system to work effectively for all, and we also want the financial architecture of the world to be also reformed so that it is a system that benefits all and where we are all treated as equals. So we can see these shifts that are happening. And yesterday, you are correct, I spoke at the China-convened global or world parties dialogue, and I said very clearly that we are more in favor of a situation where countries are treated equally, where the sovereignty of countries are respected, and where there is no interference, where there are no countries that seek to impose their own values and civilizations on others. And this is, for us, a very important approach to respecting multilateralism and strengthening the multilateral system, where we move more away from a unipolar world to a multipolar world, where there is respect and acceptance for the standing of countries in the world. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. let me join my host here in answering the first question, that we are all African countries are vying for our voice to be equally heard in the governing council in multilateral organizations. So we'll continue working on that. In all African countries, we are looking towards having seats in governing council in multilateral organizations. Coming back to your question on the healthy relationship between the government and oppositions in Tanzania, let me say that Tanzania has always been peaceful and stable. However, there was a situation that opposition parties acted or were looked into as enemies. So that's what I wanted to remove. So I came up with the concept of 4 R's: the reconciliation, resilience, reforms and rebuilding, whereby my party decided to sit down with other political parties and hear from them, have a dialogue and hear from them. What are the disturbing factors in our political administration in Tanzania? So they've come up with a report, and we read the report with different recommendations. But then there are those who wanted to be heard not in a bigger group, but separately, and we did that. And we have reached an agreement that no one owns the title deed of Tanzania. Tanzania as a country is for all the Tanzanians, and we all have to contribute towards development of the country. So unlike as it was before, that whoever ran the government is the one to bring about development on his own or her own in the country. But now, what we want to do, the political parties, all of them, civil society, NGOs, and the government, we all have to work together to bring about development in the country. And I'm glad to say we have achieved that. On 8th of March this year was an International Women's Day. And you can't imagine the major opposition party held the celebration for the Women's Day. And I went there as a guest of honor, and it was all cheerful. And we have agreed to join our efforts to build our nation. So that's the situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.